stains versus dyes. We get asked a lot, what is the difference? Essentially, to all intensive purposes, unless you're going to get quite technical, it's not a difference you overly need to worry about. When you start, it's quite a technical definition, and the terms have been mixed up and misused, so it's often hard to tell. In general principle, dyes are made up of much smaller molecules, and those smaller molecules have room, therefore, to go further down into the leather. They can go through all those collagen fibre webs, they can sink further, go down, bond, and then because that's happened, as you're looking down onto it, you tend to see a much more opaque, uniform finish. So you're tending to see more of the colour and less of the actual leather fibres, and they are smaller particles. They're all together, causing that kind of opacity a little bit more. The stains are designed to sit a little bit more on the top surface of the leather and react with that top surface layer. They have larger molecules that sit there. They're a little bit more translucent, so as you look, you're looking through them to the leather underneath. Now that can give you more of a sense of the leather underneath coming up and through it, hence a sort of stain, like a kind of just look without it blocking in the same way perhaps as a dye. So again, it's an aesthetic. It depends what you want from it. But the stains will allow a little bit more of that naturalness of the leather through. So we'll do a little test. Let's do a dye versus a stain. Okay, I have some of the stain left here, the Pro Dye. This is the Walnut Pro Dye colour in here. And that was the sponge. And I'm going to use some English Tan water stain. Now, the other reason that it doesn't particularly matter is it depends what colour. It really only becomes an issue when you are going to lighter colours. If you are going from a medium brown to the other end, to that end of the spectrum towards black, it's not going to make a difference, particularly between the colour and the opacity when it's dark already. When you're looking to go more for a medium, light brown or a tan, that's where you can see the differences. Hopefully we'll maybe have a little chance to see that on this. Okay, so again, I'll start on the left. I'll put the camera down a little. I'm going to start on the left with the English Tan. So just get some of my applicator loaded up. I'm just wiping it off on the edge so I've not got too much. And again, I'm working in my circles with it. Keeping a piece handy just to smooth that over. Ooh, lovely. And then we'll do the solvent. Now these, as we mentioned, evaporate off much quicker, so you haven't got quite such room to move them around. I'm just going to move those pots out of the way. And if I give these a little buff, just to lift off anything that's sitting on the top, they're still drying a little, but hopefully you might get a sense of it. So I've done this on natural veg tan calf. This is just drying back a bit, but you can see this one I did first. Now, you may be able to see it's not quite such a flat colour. You see a little bit of the kind of colour of the leather coming through. It has a little bit of that more naturalness feeling. This, if we did a couple of coats of this, you're just going to get a solid, more solid coat of that colour. So that's kind of to illustrate the difference between the dyes and the stains. If I go back to this one, which dried earlier, you can see there is this was the side here. This is a very sort of much more of a kind of solid colour, if you like. Again, not a huge amount in it until you go to quite light colours. So another test we can do for showing up how the colours interact differently is to look at one colour. We're going to pick the yellow ochre for this. So you can do a sample test on this on a light colour, and this is a really good way to show the difference that the leather has when you're applying it. It can sometimes happen with dyes as well, but particularly it's relevant to stains. So this is one I've done earlier with the yellow ochre. Now this, you can see on the end here, this is this flesh coloured pinky brown piece of veg tan calf. So I've left it at the top deliberately so you can see that that's that leather. So one of our veg tan pieces bags. And I'm going to get another pot again, shaking the bottle and tip a little in the dish. So this is our water-based leather stain from the Identity store, and it is a colour we call yellow ochre. So I'm just going to load my sponge up, and I have my white leather here. So I'm going to move it around again as before. You can see how quickly and easily I can move this on this leather. Let's even it out, and again just give it a little lift off of anything that's sitting on that top surface. Now when this is first going on, it can look darker, so bear in mind with some of these, where there's water content in, they're also going to make that leather a little darker, so you won't know what your true colour is until you let the leather dry and dry back and let that darkening shade mitigate. So I have a little piece that I did earlier. So this was the one I showed you on the veg tan. This is it on the white leather. Now this is just to show you that the same colour dye, how different that looks when you put it on two different leathers. So with a white base, you're getting a much brighter yellow. With this one, the pinky tones are influencing the yellow and they're making it look more earthy. So you just need to bear that in mind. Not all veg tans are the same. This white is actually a veg tan. It's tanned with olive oil pulp. It's an incredibly sustainable tannage of leather in a circular economy. I'll do more about that another time. But the different barks that are used in different tanneries and all sorts of different variations will give you differences between the colour that the leather is. So this calf tends to be quite a pinky tone. Some of the veg tans can be a little bit more grey. It depends on the materials, but what that is going to affect some of your colours. So again, keep some records, think about what you want to do and do a test piece. When we first got this, I just was going to call it yellow. And after I saw it on the veg during the testing process, between this one and the red as well, actually, we changed the names that we were going to give them. So instead of just being red, it became brick red, and with yellow ochre, just to recognise that influence of the colour underneath, that you're more likely to get that kind of tone with it. So stains.